It's something we hardly ever think about, right? Just turning on the tap, expecting water, clean water. It's this like fundamental trust we have built right into our day. But what if that just stopped? What if that certainty vanished? Well, our sources for this deep dive, they introduced this really unsettling idea, a mega drought, something they claim is potentially worse than anything we've seen before, leading to a massive water crisis here in America. So today, yeah, we're diving right into these claims, this worsening water situation, and also this very specific kind of self-reliant solution that the source material proposes. It's a story that weaves together these like really dire warnings, a super dramatic personal story, and this unexpected, almost old-fashioned answer to a very modern problem.
Exactly. And our job here really is to unpack all of that, this whole narrative from the source.
Yeah.
We'll look at the facts presented, sure, but also the very personal claims, spiritual claims even, and try to figure out what it all might mean for you listening right now. It's not just what they're saying, but why does this kind of message, especially about water, hit home so hard for people? It's a really interesting look at, crisis, preparedness, faith, and maybe even grassroots innovation.
Okay, so let's dig in. The source kicks off with this incredibly stark warning. It says, America isn't just in a drought, we're in the beginning of a reckoning. Whoa, okay. And it goes on, claiming we're facing a 100-year mega drought, supposedly worse than the Dust Bowl back in the 30s. And the really surprising part, it claims NASA, of all people, is confirming it.
The source says the last 6 years, just the start. Now it's spreading and we're completely unprepared. That's quite an opening statement. It really is. Sets a serious tone right away. And what's interesting is how it immediately goes from that big, scary claim to very specific examples to make it real. It talks about Lake Mead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Largest reservoir in the U.S., it says, and claims it's hit its lowest level since it was first filled in 1930.
Wow.
And it's not just Mead. The source mentioned California, saying whole lakes and stuff are drying up faster than they can refill. The land is being drained faster than it can heal. That's the quote.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, and Lake Superior, too. Biggest freshwater lake in the world, right?
Yeah.
But the source says it hit its lowest point in over 80 years. But maybe the biggest one they point to is the Ogalla Aquifer.
Ah, yeah, heard of that.
The source calls it the underground lifeline for millions, homes, farms, and says it's just disappearing. And it makes this really stark point. Once it's gone, that's it. It says you don't refill the Ogalla, you just run dry. That's a huge claim, considering how vital that aquifer is for agriculture for so many people.
And the way they talk about it, it's got this really intense, almost biblical feel to it. It's not just describing a drought. It links it to like ancient famine, calls it a message or even a judgment, uses imagery like Pharaoh begging Joseph during famine, describes this time as a wilderness season, a time of testing, even pulls stuff from the book of Revelation about the red horse rides, famine is here, and thirst is coming. It's really framing it in these incredibly stark, almost apocalyptic terms. What do you make of that?
Well, that framing, that prophetic tone, it definitely raises the stakes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
By making those comparisons to, ancient times and judgment, the source isn't just reporting dry facts about the environment. It's tapping into these really deep anxieties, fears about society breaking down, losing control. It makes these huge environmental shifts feel intensely personal.
Right, like it's happening to you.
Exactly. That core message is your basic trust, just turning on the faucet. It's being stripped away one drop at a time. Action. So the implication is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Water scarcity can mess with everything. Daily life, cooking, hygiene, even the economy. It's a really powerful argument for, getting prepared yourself, framed not just by science, but by this sense of maybe divine warning.
Okay, so after setting that really intense stage, the source shifts. It zooms right into this powerful personal story. It introduces us to a guy named John Gilmore, living on 5 acres in Arizona with his wife and teenage son. He's painted as this super self-reliant guy, built his house, grows food, raises chickens, dug his own well. The source says he relies on God, and the work of our hands kind of sets up this ideal, right? Independence, only to have it completely shattered. And yeah, the challenge comes fast. His well, maybe 90 feet deep, always ran clear, suddenly starts acting up, low pressure, sputtering. Then one morning, just nothing. A dusty cough, the source calls it. They had some water saved up, under 500 gallons, started rationing like crazy, but getting a new well drilled, a 5-month wait in their area, not nearly enough water. And then the breaking point, 2 a.m. He hears noise outside, finds 2 men stealing his water barrels from his shed.
No way.
Before he can react, boom, slam from behind, wakes up in the hospital, nearly killed, it says. Wife and son there. The thieves, never found. And they didn't take anything else. The source makes a point of this. Just water.
Yeah.
Just terrifying. So visceral.
Yeah, and the source really leans into the profound impact this had on Gilmore, not just physically, but like spiritually. It says this wasn't just about weather, not about climate, not politics, not broken systems. This was a shaking. It connects his personal trauma directly to that wilderness season, that time of testing the source claims America's in. It's a really strong example of how when things you rely on break down, like water access, personal safety, it can push someone towards, well, radical self-reliance. You know, when the usual safety nets fail, that kind of personal trauma can really shift your whole perspective, make you rethink everything about essential resources.
And that's exactly what happened. According to the source, Gilmore's resolve after this was like crystal clear. He knew, quote, I had to find another way. Stockpiling water? Not enough. Drilling a new well? Not sustainable, maybe not even possible long term. He needed something different, something that provides water on demand, but quietly, without attracting attention. Something that didn't rely on broken systems and wouldn't put his family at risk again.
A total shift in thinking.
Yeah, looking for something reliable, something righteous, the source says, something that could work even if they had to leave everything behind. So Gilmore starts searching, looking for this something different. And this is where the story takes a really interesting twist. He reaches out to like survivalist contacts, off-grid folks, and somehow he stumbles onto what the source calls a quiet innovation developed by the Israeli military. Designed for soldiers deep in the desert, something few people know about, it claims. That's pretty intriguing. What is this secret military tech?
Well, it sounds pretty ingenious, actually. The basic idea, as the source explains it, is surprisingly simple. Elegant, even. It's a device that literally pulls fresh, clean water out of thin air through condensation.
Like how a cold glass gets wet.
Exactly like that. It super cools the air, water vapor turns liquid, gets collected, filtered. The source portrays it as almost miraculous, calls it God's design, turned into something man could build, like manna in the wilderness. Doesn't need pipes, doesn't make noise, supposedly provides up to 50 gallons of clean water a day, just from the air, no drilling needed. It's presented as this like direct answer to water scarcity, especially in dry places, almost divinely inspired.
Okay, that sounds amazing, like something out of a sci-fi movie. But then reality hits. Gilmore looks into buying one, these commercial versions of the Israeli tech, and finds out they cost a fortune, like $6,000, $8,000, even $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And he felt they were way more complicated than it needed to be. For him, you know, working the land, family man, totally out of reach, that must have been a real blow. But Gilmore didn't give up. He decided, okay, maybe I can build one, like reverse engineer it, create a version of my own. So he starts sketching, takes apart an old dehumidifier, pulls parts from a broken mini fridge, scavenges scrap metal. He admits the first tries were a disaster, burned wiring, cracked a coil, almost quit.
I bet. Sounds tough.
But the source says he kept going, thinking of his wife, his son, thinking of Joseph, the carpenter, who just got up and did what needed to be done. He even got help from an old buddy, a guy who fixed commercial coolers.
Ah, practical help.
Yeah, helped him fix a few key mistakes, tighten the filtration loop, get the condenser cycle right. Real perseverance there.
And then you get that big aha moment in the story. After a few days, prototype ready, Gilmore plugs it in. The source describes this like immense relief when, after maybe 10 minutes, he hears it. That first soft drip into the collection tank. Water.
Wow. Must have felt amazing.
Yeah, water not from a pipe, but from the air God placed all around us. Cold, clean, drinkable. And what's really highlighted is how simple and cheap his final DIY version was. Cost him less than $150 to build, the source claims.
Seriously, from 10 grand down to $150.
Right, and running it. Less than 10 cents an hour. Less than a toaster. It's smaller, simpler, but still provides more than enough for drinking, cooking, washing, and light storage day after day. And it's flexible too. Works on grid power, or totally off-grid with just a car battery and a small solar panel. Super adaptable.
And the source really hits this point about the peace Gilmore felt. It wasn't just pride, you know. He saw it as provision, more than just a machine. It was like proof of his faith, a real answer to his need for preparedness. So once Gilmore had his system working well, he couldn't just keep it secret. The source says, word started to spread. His neighbor asked, a friend from church. Pretty soon people are calling, stopping by his place, all asking, hey, can you show me how to build one too?
Natural reaction, I guess.
Yeah, and his wife apparently said, honey, maybe this is your ministry. That really pushed him, it seems, to share it more widely.
Right. So he created what he calls the Joseph's Well Guide, described as a really simple step-by-step program made for anyone, basically, even if you've never built anything in your life. It sounds pretty complete. Full video guide, printable blueprints, schematics, a materials list with links to find the parts, instructions for on-grid, off-grid power, even the specific solar setup he uses. And get this, the source claims he offers unlimited email access to himself for help, troubleshooting, adapting it for different climates.
Wow, direct support.
Yeah, the source really stresses that his goal is making it doable for regular folks, not just experts.
And it's not just the main system guide. Gilmore includes 3 bonus guides, too. First one, how to secure your water reserves, about storing the water you make, keeping it safe. Second, how to purify and mineralize water. Simple ways to filter, disinfect with the sun, boil, add minerals back. And the third one, it's got this really provocative title, The Deadly Agents Hidden in Your Water.
Oh, what's that about?
It's a report claiming to expose harmful chemicals, pharmaceuticals, bacteria, and spiritual toxins in tap water and how to avoid them.
Spiritual toxins. That's an interesting phrase, isn't it? It suggests something beyond just, scientific contaminants, maybe a kind of moral or non-physical corruption tied to the water.
Yeah, it definitely adds another layer.
It ties right back into that underlying philosophy in the source. It's all deeply connected to faith. This whole idea of preparing, building Joseph's well, it's presented as an act of faith, as righteous provision.
Right, like a Noah reference.
Exactly. Noah didn't wait for the rain to build the ark. And that Proverbs quote, "Go to the ant, you sluggard. It stores its provisions."
Yeah.
It really shows how, for some people, getting ready for tough times isn't just practical. It's seen as like a divine instruction, a way to live out their faith.
And for anyone listening who's interested, the source mentions the whole package, the main guide, the bonuses, that unlimited email support is available for a one-time contribution of $39. It also apparently comes with a 100% peace of mind guarantee for 60 days. Full refund if you're not happy, no questions asked.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Makes it accessible if you feel that call to prepare.
So, okay, let's wrap this up. What does all this mean for you listening in? We've heard these really strong claims, right? Widespread water scarcity, this looming mega drought, pretty scary stuff. And then, on the flip side, this very specific DIY solution, the Joseph's Well, born from personal crisis, presented as this almost God-given answer.
Yeah, and beyond just the practical side, getting water, how the tech works, this whole story, this Joseph's Well narrative, it really taps into something deeper, doesn't it? It reflects these widespread anxieties we have, that basic human need for security, for provision, especially when things feel uncertain, when trust in the usual system starts to fray. So regardless of what you think about the specific claims of the mega drought or the spiritual framing, thinking about solutions like this, maybe it prompts you to look differently at your own resources, your own preparedness. It kind of invites us all to think about what self-sufficiency really means today and what role community, or maybe even faith, plays in that whole picture, something to chew on.